Hey, I'm Jordan Bloom. I'm one of the showrunners and co-creators of Marvel's MODOK, and I'm excited we're going to talk today about the mad scientist fight clip that we released, and we'll give you a little kind of behind the scenes commentary on it.
We got us a mad scientist fight!
So this was a scene we always wanted to write from the very beginning of the show with our mad scientist off, where things would just kind of escalate with them using kind of everything they've invented at AIM to battle each other. Monica is a way more qualified scientist than MODOK, and we wanted to give her a shot to kind of prove that and show that she's really the one who should be running AIM. But you know, they're both pretty brilliant scientists, so we wanted to kind of have them be going back and forth. This was written by Cullen Crawford, almost beat for beat, exactly how it was broken and written in the room. Everything from this de-aging to de-evolving gun that they're doing to that little acid capsule she eats to disintegrate. These are tiny MODOKs that he has in his crotch for no reason. They just shrink and explode, or shriek and explode. This was a bit we were obsessed with, a 2D grenade that turns you into a pixelated version of yourself, and then he pulls her into it as they're fighting. Obviously, we based this a ton off of Street Fighter. We gave as a reference to the animators. And then they're kind of free from that, which leads them right into this Pokemon bit, which you'll see has a little more context in the episode. We set up these manatees as Monica's big project she's working on, but does not go her way here. Monica Rappaccini is also a character from the comics who was created by Fred Van Lente, who we were excited to use, who has kind of a similar relationship with MODOK in the comics, but we gave them a little more history in the show. And then we thought we'd shock the audience a little bit by straight up just having Monica murder MODOK. The show is very much an adult cartoon, and we thought this would be a good clip to let you know that when we release that. But she's got a nice convenient spray that can bring you right back to life and heal you. This is Austin Vandersleet. He works for Grumble, which is the company that buys AIM at the beginning of the show. You'll get a little more sense of what's going on behind the scenes as you watch it. He's not exactly who he says he is, and that's the end of our clip. But it was one of the most fun things to produce. Stupid Buddy knocked it out of the park. Alex Kamer and Eric Towner directed that scene, and I think to me, when we saw it, we're like, okay, this is the show. This is exactly what we were trying to make, and I think their ability to translate that into stop motion, it was incredible. We were all blown away when we saw it.
You sort of mentioned that most of it was on the page and just kind of translated through. What were some of the more challenging segments? Like, I'm wondering, for instance, like about the 2D animation, you're just shooting stop motion background then that you then have to like lay that animation over. Like, what was getting real eye blood? I don't know.
Yeah. The 2D thing was interesting because they shot a blank wall, and the way the show is made, a lot of it is actual motion controlled camera rigs. So, they're doing frame by frame handheld photography with motion controlled rigs. So they're just shooting this blank wall, and we're timing it. And we were able to bring in another animator to do the actual 2D elements. And we talked about what the moves would be if this were a real fighting game. My hope is that we talked with Hulu that maybe they release some sort of handheld version of this that we could play on our phones. But it was really fun to kind of pull like, oh, Monica should have a move like Ken from Street Fighter or Ryu, where she does that uppercut, and we got to have MODOK saw blade. And then again, elements, everyone contributed to this, because then we had our VFX team who was incorporating the 2D footage. They started to add things like the buzzsaw leaving sparks and cuts in the wall. So I mean, that's the fun of animation, is that you have all these people collaborating and everyone's kind of throwing in their ideas. And I mean, that's how the sequence was pitched, was the entire writer's room being like, what if they have fucking Pokemon balls and, and suddenly they become 2D and he's got freeze rays. And I think like, it's that kind of, you want to surround yourself with people who are creatives, who just want to keep adding and saying yes. And I think that's what you get is a sequence like this where everyone kind of added their elements to it.
I was going to ask if there's anything you couldn't figure out or anything you couldn't put in that Colin Crawford wrote. If there anything that you guys were like, oh, we can't figure out how to do this, but it doesn't seem like there was.
No, I think we probably had a much longer list when we were breaking it in the room, and then Cullen had to kind of take all that and put that into an outline. But I knew we were doing this, so I reread the writer's draft sequence, and it is beat for beat what you see. It was incredible, and I know Cullen was so excited to see it come to life after it was animated.
I mean, one thing that I think the animation really adds to it is there is like a rhythm to it. Do you know what I mean? Like you can write it on the page, but then it does feel like there's like a propulsion to it and like kind of like a beat. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like, now there's this, now there's this, now there's this. Like it seems like very steady and building in a way that I really loved.
Yeah, you want to have them one up each other, but you also want to leave a little room for comedy and and breathers and downbeats and things like that. I love how underwhelming the kind of Pokemon creatures are for them, and they kind of have to agree, like, this didn't really go our way. Should we keep beating the shit out of each other? Okay, let's do it. And I think for that it makes it feel like everything's kind of escalating, and you're not just watching this kind of monotonous fight. That there are beats to it, like you were saying.
I mean, you mentioned that that she is a much more qualified I guess supervillain than he is, like, but in the fight you don't really know that in some sense, but like it's about everything, like he's fully weaponized. Like he is prepared to do it, but it's everything but his like personality gets in the way of him being like an excellent supervillain. So which we may not really get from that clip.
Yeah, I think MODOK can be deadly. I mean, it's in his name, mental organism designed only for killing. He is souped up with every kind of weapon there is, but he's a terrible leader. I think that's maybe more what I'm trying to say. She would be much better, I think, at keeping AIM focused and achieving its goals, whereas his ego gets in the way and brings them down all the time. And that's kind of what the basis of the show is that he's gotten so kind of lost on his path of like proving himself and getting revenge on Iron Man that he's run AIM into the ground, and now they're bankrupt, and she's furious with him because of how poorly he's led this organization. So I think maybe that's more of their relationship, is she's like, I'm so much better at this than you, why am I working for you? This is insane. And I think it's a very relatable thing for people to be able to kind of get inside Monica's head. I think we've all been there. We're like, I can't believe you're in charge of this. I can't believe I have to report to you. You're a moron.
Yeah. So especially for a lady. Let's say that.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is an element that we lean into with her story. But the relationship's complicated, and when you get to see this episode, there's a lot of build up to this fight, and you realize this history they have, which we reveal that it wasn't always this bad between them. That there was a point where she actually looked up to him, but because of the way he has treated her, it's kind of led to this resentment. And it's very much that, I think this has happened to a lot of women, where it's like, I am much more qualified than some of my peers, and because of this institutionalized nonsense, I shouldn't have to tolerate this. This is crazy. So I'm pro Monica. I am 100% behind Monica in this fight.
And maybe Grumble's not really gonna give her manatees the respect they deserve either. Whatever is happening there, it's very gross, by the way. Her manatee stuff, it's so gross.
That was a really funny pitch that I forgot who came up with it, but like we never wanted to get into her science, but she's constantly murdering manatees, trying to turn them into some sort of super soldier thing. And Austin, who you see in the clip, has to like come to her and be like, what are all these expenses for like manatee purchases and waste removal? And like part of what frustrates Monica is that there's this bureaucracy that's put in place after Grumble takes over, where it used to be like, just do science for science sake. We're mad scientists, who cares? And now it's being run like a Silicon Valley, kind of corporation, where suddenly people are looking at expense reports, and it starts to kind of drive her crazy as well.
MODOK is an existing character from the comics, has been around for a long time. A bunch of different people have drawn MODOK. Mm-hmm. So how did you arrive at where you wanted him to go on television?
I think we started at Kirby, at his creator, at Jack Kirby's version, which was perfect right out of the gate. It's this monster, and you're terrified by him, but he's also slightly comedic because of his proportions, and you can't look away. So we started there, and we pulled a lot. There's different versions over the years that we liked, and we created this giant reference file, Patton and I, for Stupid Buddy, and their design artist kind of came back, and we realized that we were asking an audience to invest in this guy over a season. So we did certain things that are kind of tricks within animation, as far as, we gave him pupils and bigger, more expressive eyes and eyebrows, so that you could communicate a little more from him emotionally. But really, we were always like, we would just go back and be like, more Kirby, more Kirby. We want this to be Kirby come to life. And I think they nailed it. So, and I think that's what makes the stop motion so fun, is that it is physical and big, and it takes up space, and it feels like a Kirby drawing come to life.
There's a couple sort of Marvel-y projects and different sort of comics projects that are happening right now that are animated. And I love the ones that are like more adult and animated, because they really like let you do crazy shit. Do you know what I mean? Like watching MODOK's eye bleed out. First of all, he's like a giant head, so you're like, it's not of consequence to me. Do you know what I mean? Like that guy's not good. But then it's also like so gross and also like so hilarious. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love these like grown-up animated comic shows. I'm living for them. So
yeah, it's a great time for gore in animation. I was just watching Invincible, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many heads exploding in the show. I love it. And we did the same thing. We wanted to push it, where we're like, we want to do things you can't do in other Marvel media, and we know the audience we're targeting here, and I know the things that make me laugh, and giant heads exploding make me laugh in this. So we pushed it this season, and there's stuff I can't believe we got away with, but I think because a lot of it is happening to MODOK or puppets, people are like, oh, that's funny, as opposed to like, that's so horrific, you can't do this.
I mean, the very conceited MODOK is funny. Do you know what I mean? Like he has like little legs, and he's just like scooting around, and somehow we never see his parents. How did MODOK become, I mean, like, and then you have his daughter, like it's all very visually funny, just out of the gate. I'll say the world you guys have set up is pretty visually stunning.
Oh, thank you. Well, all the credit goes to Stupid Buddy and the team there. They're unbelievable.
And actually, Colin, AV Club, part of the Onion. Colin used to work at Clickhole.
So yes,
we all
Colin.
used to work in the same office. Yeah,
that's awesome. He's just one of the most talented writers I've ever worked with. One of the best writers draft I ever read. Like, that dude is unbelievable. I was so happy to have him on staff.
Am I good businessman?
Yeah, about that. We're bankrupt.
What?
I'm sorry. I thought this coffee was for everyone.